Well, hey there, viewers. Uh, it's been a while since I've done any sort of car videos, and so I thought for this one, I would talk about my 2022 Kia Stinger GT. Alright, viewers, so I went and bought myself a Kia Stinger GT. With the news that Kia was ending production of this rear-wheel drive Grand Tourer, it kind of made the decision for me. I had been looking at these for quite some time and done a lot of research, really had fallen in love with the car. And I'll admit that initially I wasn't the biggest fan. I liked the format, but just some of the styling cues weren't quite working for me. But over time, it definitely grew on me. And with the update that came in 2021, which included the addition of a 10.25-inch screen over the older models, I thought, yeah, that's a car I could see myself in, and really did my research, did a lot of looking around, and decided that that would be the replacement. I would start saving, putting money away, and make it happen. And the rumors about the Stinger's demise had been going for quite some time. I think all through 2021, it was rumored they were going to kill it off quite early, and of course by the end of 2022, it was looking like it was definitely going to happen, with word coming about by the beginning of 23 that we should be getting our orders in now if you want a new one. So my search included older models. I was quite interested in perhaps getting a carbon edition. My criteria for a new car was that it had to be red, actually. I wanted a red car for my last one, for my Ford Focus, and I missed out. And so I made it a criteria that for my next car it would be red, with no exception. So I was in search of a red Stinger, and I had a few bookmarked, and I was looking at even 2018 models until as I figured that perhaps shooting for a 21 or newer would be a bit difficult financially. As it would turn out, I really was hooked on getting the new interior, the new screen, and just having a newer model. So I refined my searches a bit more, but I did keep in mind that I perhaps could get a white Stinger with a red leather interior, and I would even consider perhaps what's called deep chroma blue, but basically a purple, really dark purple Stinger, which would have come with a cream or a white cream leather interior. None of those eventuated. Come the beginning of 2023, I was very much in search of a red, and there were a few around on the websites. They were all mostly secondhand, as new ones were starting to go up in price with the availability coming down. And yeah, this one popped up around March. It was a 1.5 hours drive north of Sydney to get to it, and there was a 21 model with the older badges on it that was down south, and that was about 1.5 hours, 2 hours drive away as well, with substantially more kilometers on it. I did inquire with some dealerships, just looking for what they could do, what they could get, and whilst, as I said, the price rises were happening, the drive-away price for this should have been around 69,000-70,000 Australian, and already places were putting them upwards of 80 or 90,000, and which was just ridiculous. So yeah, I went around to some dealerships that weren't actively price gouging and inquired with them, and basically I could get a Stinger for 69,000 drive away, but I was restricted to other colors like your whites, your silvers, your ceramic grays, perhaps a black. So particularly wanting red made my task a little harder. So I started my look in February, I think it was, of this year. And I was told that I could put an order in and they would abide by it. They were just slowing down the deliveries. A week later, I think we'd just ticked over into March, and I went back to the same dealership. And suddenly it had all changed, and that they were only selling what was on the boats or what was on the dealership floor. So there were no red ones anymore. And look, credit to that dealership. That was Bankstown dealers. That everyone I dealt with there was really great. And the guy said he would give me a call. He would do a check and see what he could find. And he did do that, and he couldn't find a red one. So, and to their credit, they kept their word. They did offer me any other color if I wanted it, but as I was stuck on getting a red, I had to change how I approached it. And so I ended up going to Wyong, which, as I said, is an hour and a half out of Sydney to the north. And this car was sitting there. It's an X demonstrator with 3,000 Ks on it, which is why it was a 22 model, but it was really well kept. And that was the day after my birthday that we went up there, my 40th birthday. And basically we said, right, where do we sign? We took it for a test drive. We had a good look over it and agreed that it was the one to go for. It was the color, it was in good condition and not overpriced. So with all that on it, we went to work, and I picked it up at the end of the month, just in time for so that they could include it in their sales figures for the month. And I drove home in a red Kia Stinger. Very happy. So I've owned it for about, what are we now? I've had it for 7 months now, and it's been really fun. I got the car paint protected and put PPF on the front very early on. We've added some dash cams, but apart from that, she's still pretty much stock. At this point, we're just shy of 13,000 kilometers on the clock. She's had a first year service and really hasn't missed a beat. Nothing really has gone wrong. I've just been enjoying my time driving. Found some nice roads here, so we can go for a bit of a blast. So it's a practical 5-seater, 4-door fastback. So we have the hatch with a massive boot. Rear-wheel drives, they were only available in Australia. Being the 22 model, we have 274 kilowatts coming from the twin-turbo V6. A whopping 2 kilowatts more than the older models due to some changes to the exhaust system. Do have the bimodal exhaust, so that when you flick it over into sport, or if you customize your driving modes, it opens the exhaust valve and you just get a little bit more out of it. The gearbox is 8-speed automatic from Kia, and while it does have flappy paddles, the response isn't always instant, and of course it doesn't leave you in that gear. It will change up eventually back into drive, so you can have a little bit of fun with it, but it's not a full manual experience, I guess. With the sports mode, with the different driving modes, sometimes, especially in these lower speed limit areas, it will hold onto a gear a little longer than you expect it to. That's just a quirk, I guess. You just get used to it, or you manually shift it up if it holds for too long. When we're in 50 and 60 kilometer zones and it's just holding on a gear a bit too much, it's because it wants to stretch its legs a bit more. And the draconian speed limits that we have in Australia just need to be more on the open road. I find the driving position is really comfortable. Obviously you sit quite low in a car like this compared to an SUV, but that's kind of the point. And I really do like how the seat will hug you when you put it into sport mode. I just feel it's a little bit of a shame that it doesn't do it for the passenger as well. I don't know if anyone's figured out a way to do that. I think it would be kind of nice. It would branch out the overall experience to your passengers as well. I love that the GT spec just comes with everything too. You know, the adaptive suspension, the sunroof, and all that. There was the lower model, called it the 330S here, but I believe it was called GT line and others in different countries. You know, so with the 330S, you still got the V6, you still got a lot of the fun factor. You just didn't have the badge factor, I guess. You didn't get the sunroof, you didn't have the flat bottom steering wheel. You missed out on quite a few things. And I mean, I was asked when I was looking, you know, did I want a 330S or did I want a GT? And I said, well, it's got to be a GT. I mean, you really, yeah, as nice as I'm sure the 330S is, I just, yeah, wouldn't want to be driving around in anything but a GT. And that's not snobbery. I appreciate anyone who's gone and got a Stinger, because they are an absolutely awesome machine, a great looking car, and just really fun to drive. And we've got a really good community, which I found too. I mean, I was researching even before buying the Stinger, and I joined up onto a couple of Stinger related Facebook groups, and you know, the owners of these cars are really into them, and they're a really good bunch. In Australia, there's quite a few groups, and in New South Wales itself, we have 2 really active and really fun groups. There's Stinger GT New South Wales with over 800 members, and we also have the Kia Stinger Drivers Club New South Wales, which is small and growing, and you know, there are meets happening all the time. And yeah, just really good people to get along with. Now, thankfully, things have opened up for us here. So I'm on a very well-known piece of road. That car looks like he's had a bit of an accident. And are they okay? So hopefully this road's going to open up for us a little bit. It's only a 60 zone, but it's a very famous piece of road. So I've got in a sport mode, and we'll just see how we go down here as we talk about the Stinger GT. Obviously, it is a GT. It is not really designed for tight, twisty, winding roads, and this is probably the most winding road in Sydney, the Galston Gorge. It is notorious for trucks getting stuck down here. So we're gonna just take it easy but have some fun. We've got a bit of an opening in front of us, and just enjoy this bit of a drive. Now, one thing, although the Stinger is quite a large car, sometimes can feel smaller than it actually is. But on a road like this, you have to be very mindful of its width, because it does get quite narrow. And especially when you're going to have four-wheel drives coming the other way. Now that exhaust is quite... I mean, people complain about the sound of a six-cylinder, but I think the Stinger's V6 sounds pretty nice. And this is just the standard exhaust. I know a lot of people do change them, and it might be something I'll look at down the track. Yeah, so I'm kind of hitting the cat's eyes a little bit in the middle there, but I'm very mindful of the guardrail to my left. So with the in sports mode, the adaptive suspension kicks in, tightens things up a little bit just to help cornering, flattens things out a little. Otherwise, the car can be a bit floaty. That's how I have custom mode set up, where the suspension is still comfortable, not as bone shattering, but the exhaust valves are still open, so you still get that oral sense. Brakes are good. Just have to be mindful of other motorists who maybe don't stay on their side of the road all the time. There we go. We're almost at the bottom of the gorge here. bridge. Just make sure we're clear. Nice that some people have drawn some love hearts on the road there. Now that's actually the easy part of the gorge. The climb out on the eastern side is where it gets tough and the switchbacks are extremely tight. So let's go here. Try and keep our nose clean. Alright, I've got a holding in second there, so that's probably why. See, these SUVs are going to have trouble getting around. Now, even though it's a big car, I do find that its nose doesn't wander too much. Oh man, gosh. People just not staying in their side of the road. I think we've opened up, sort of getting to the end of this stretch. Now it's a lot of fun, even in a car like this, even though it's more for long distance grand touring. It's just really rewarding. Brembo brakes really do their job there, and here we are at the top. Now I'm just going to take a break in the there you go, Galston Gorge. Let's try back down again. Let's see about leaving her in drive this time, but we'll just get some of that engine noise too. So coming from the east, obviously it's a little harder because coming down the hill, you're going to use a lot more of the Brembo brakes, I think, on the way down. Let's see how we go. I think I'm still going to end up using the paddles. So also with these tighter roads, one thing you got to watch is with the safety features, the lane keep assist can want to kick in sometimes, which can be a bit disconcerting because you've got the guardrail and you've got the white line, and the car doesn't want you to cross the white line, but you also don't want to hit the guardrail. So anyway, we'll see how we go. We're keeping just within 60, and that's the limit. Very tight here as we drop down. Oh, there we go. Really knows how to carve up these roads, I've got to say. It's helpful when people give you enough room. It's amazing for such a windy road. It really is still, it gets a lot of people coming through here, and I'm sure a lot of people hate it. And there we are, we're at the bottom already. Again on the western side. So yeah, interestingly, didn't end up using the paddles on that. So ultimately, this is what I was after. It was something I wanted to break out of my previous. All of my previous cars have been front-wheel drive, so I definitely wanted to get out of that. And there was no shortage of all-wheel drive options out there. Volkswagen Arteon, Skoda Superb, sort of in this category. All your Audis, even the Subaru WRX STI, which I was initially considering in 2015. There were more front-wheel drive options. Peugeot 508 was one of those, or even just staying with the hot hatches and getting a Renault Megane or something. So the Stinger was one of the only new options to get an affordable rear-wheel drive performance sedan. I mean, it is a hatch, but yeah, it was one of the only options for that. And yeah, I definitely have no regrets on that. It looks amazing in high chroma red. It's and it's just an absolute blast. And you know what? I don't care that it's a Kia, because it's such a good car. It's really well sorted, and it's the car that's kind of put Kia on the map for how they've changed their outlook. You know, they've gone from the cheap and cheerful to, you know, they're a serious manufacturer now with cars like this. And of course, they're going fully electric now with the EV6 and all those, but I think people are going to remember that the Stinger kind of put them on the map, made people take notice, and it's a shame that it wasn't really continued. And particularly here in Australia, no review could get away with saying the Stinger without making reference to the fact that it was also the replacement spiritual successor to the homegrown Ford Falcon and Holden Commodore. So, you know, but the fact that you can have your fun, but you can also go on long trips and just enjoy. It's not a good place to pull over. Let's keep going. And so I think that's why it's proven to be quite popular with the public as well. See one or two out there quite often. Now the question is, do I go and do that again, or do I just have a break? Because that's a lot of fun. Just want to find a place to pull over and take the cameras off, actually. Evidently, I forgot that I was trying to film some sort of car review here, as I simply just stopped the video and did no sort of wrap-up. But never mind. I doubt that this will be the last video I film with my Kia Stinger. See you in the next one.